Yuya Kanzaki finds himself unexpectedly gaining a new stepsister just like that on one random day. She is named Mitsuki. Earlier that day, the two step-siblings have a weird encounter where Yuya's perverted desires make him watch her change clothes, and he goes on for the entire day apologizing to her. Initially, Mitsuki keeps her distance from him, referring to him as your him. However, one day, while on a walk together, Mitsuki suddenly falls on the pedestrian bridge and falls right in his arms as if from a scene in Romeo and Juliet. When Mitsuki wakes up in the hospital, she doesn't know what to do and hugs Yuya without even hesitating, pressing her half-succulent melons against his flatboard back. Later on, Mitsuki discovers a purity chain on her body, which technically puts a love lock on her you-know-who place, rendering her unable to get naughty with herself. Afterwards, she encounters Hiori, who claims to be an angel. Before Mitsuki can inquire further, Hiori possesses her body, causing the real Mitsuki to float outside of it, and then Hiori starts touching herself here and there in Mitsuki's body. Hiori assures Mitsuki that she is not dead and proceeds to visit a safety deposit box in Mitsuki's drawers while in control of her body. This causes the real Mitsuki to jump back into her body, driving Hiori out. Hiori continues to talk about Yuya while dialing a rotary phone, resulting in Mitsuki's melting, which causes the heart on her purity chain to fill up a little. Mortified at the possibility of anyone seeing her purity chain, Mitsuki demands that Hiori tell her how to remove it. Hiori explains that there is a button that will release it, which Mitsuki promptly presses. However, while Hiori is explaining more about the chain, Mitsuki has to use the bathroom. During this time, the purity chain reclasps itself onto her again, but Hiori had explained that the chain would remain off for only 3 minutes before reattaching itself, and Mitsuki would have to wait an hour before she could try to remove it again. Mitsuki spends an entire hour in the toilet yapping with Hiori on why she wouldn't tell her such thing before the calamity had struck, and now she's as impatiently waiting for the hour to pass so that the love lock chain could get off her shaved kitty cat, and she could finally experience relief again once the dam is drained. She confronts Hiori, demanding to know who she is and why she cannot cross over to heaven even though she is an angel now. Hiori reveals that she loved Yuya in her past life and passed away before confessing her feelings. In order to cross over, she asks Mitsuki to do lovey-dovey things with Yuya, and that definitely means kissing him, cuddling with him, and eating his corn on the cob till Hiori herself is satisfied. Each time this happens, whether through Hiori's possession or Mitsuki's own actions, the heart on Mitsuki's purity chain fills up, bringing them closer to the Golden Gate. Once the heart is full, the gate will open, allowing Hiori to cross over, and ending all of these perverted actions once and for all. Mitsuki wakes up thinking it was all a dream but is disappointed to discover it was real. She goes to school and allows Hiori to possess her during gym class, resulting in an excellent performance, and giving her the limelight she doesn't deserve. Hiori tells Mitsuki that she is doing this to draw Yuya's attention and warns her that if the heart on her chain drains completely, they will both end together, and the anime will end on episode 2. While at school, Mitsuki suddenly needs to use the restroom and Yuya takes her to the nurse, mistakenly thinking she is sick. On the bed in the nurse's room, she desperately needs to let her Niagara Falls flow, or else she will be embarrassed if it comes out on the bed. Mitsuki sees a vase and decides to do it inside of it, but is too late, and all Yuya finds at the end is a perverted little sister flashing her kitty cat in the most doggiest of positions ever. Mitsuki is dreaded after this, and doesn't want to face Yuya at all. Meanwhile, Yuya has an accident at the grocery store and he probably smells of rotten eggs, and due to this when he comes back home he needs to take a bath, but the lock of the bathroom door is broken. Mitsuki accidentally sees his little elephant trunk while coming inside, and runs away knowing that his Johnson is embarrassingly small. Later on, Mitsuki is stuck inside the washroom as well. Yuya makes a promise to open the bathroom door to let Mitsuki out, but Hiori cunningly takes advantage of the situation and possesses Mitsuki's body. She pulls Yuya into the bathroom with her, trapping them both inside, hoping for the both of them to recreate a pervy family scene. As they are stuck together in the small space, Yuya offers Mitsuki his shirt so that their situation could look less pervy than usual, and now they begin sharing stories from their past. The emotional connection formed between them causes Mitsuki's heart to fill with warmth, as she looks towards Yuya with some comfort for the first time. Suddenly, Yuya calls for help and her childhood friend Yukina comes to their rescue. However, Mitsuki becomes upset when Yukina introduces herself as Yuya's friend and warns her about any potential interest in Yuya, and that Mitsuki's small melons fall pale in front of her humongous plot armors, so Mitsuki needs to work hard in order to win against Yukina. Hiori even goes as far as telling Mitsuki that jealousy and relationship stress can affect the purity of her heart chain. Hiori once again repossesses Mitsuki's body and tries to humiliate Yukina by flirting with Yuuya, but it has little effect. Mitsuki becomes embarrassed when Yuuya reveals his preference for both large and small melons, causing the heart on her purity chain to recover and fill up more. The next day, Yuuya accidentally sees Mitsuki's freaky love lock after a spill makes her panties transparent. She then refuses to walk to school with both Yuuya and Yukina, citing embarrassment. Hiori suggests that Mitsuki's behavior may be due to jealousy, but Mitsuki denies it while blushing. Yukina subtly hints that she knows Mitsuki is missing a really crucial part of her clothing and dignity, so she tries to help by bringing her back inside, away from the wind that has been constantly trying to blow her panties away. But unfortunately, a sudden gust of wind exposes Mitsuki's peaches, causing Yuuya to be stunned by her peaches and causing him to fall back and hit his head in shock. Later on, Mitsuki finds a new pair of clothing on her desk, given to her by an unknown person. In the nurse's office with a headache and memory loss, Yuuya is still confused on what is happening between him and Mitsuki. As she rests in bed, Hiori tells Mitsuki to engage more with Yuuya, and even suggests that she could become his ideal little sister, a challenge that Mitsuki eagerly accepts. The following day, Hiori repossesses Mitsuki's body and surprises Yuuya by making breakfast for him. As Mitsuki observes the scene, she dismisses Hiori's actions as mere flattery, but he assures her that he will not engage in any weird behavior. Later on, that very day at the river, Yuuya mentions about a girl when she was alive, and that he and Yukina would go to her almost every day to spend time with her. This opens up the gates of memories within Hiori as she tries to make Yuuya that she is the same girl but in Mitsuki's body. But Yuuya still doesn't understand one thing at the end. During all this, Mitsuki's ghost wasn't able to enter her body for even one bit to regain control. And back at home, Hiori blackmails Mitsuki that since she can't get back in her body, she will use this opportunity to play diddle-diddle with Yuuya's fiddle. So, that night, Hiori, who is still in Mitsuki's body, tries to go and sleep with Yuuya to make sure they end up wrestling to make kids in the end. But Yuuya, being the non-pervy Oni-chan, denies to sleep together and he sleeps on the ground. Hiori ultimately follows him and tries to get his clothes off while fiddling with his Johnson. But then, Hiori declares through Mitsuki that she will be the perfect little sister for Yuuya, but he responds by urging her to simply be herself. This causes the real Mitsuki, who is floating nearby, to feel touched, and Hiori finally leaves Mitsuki's body. Feeling mortified by whatever happened just now, Mitsuki forcefully ejects Yuuya from his own room, making him sleep on the sofa, and the next day, she assures him that she will remain true to herself, as he had suggested. While this also affirms Yuuya's theory that she might as well have multiple personality disorder. Together, they receive an invitation from their friend Ayaka to visit a fitness pool center. As she watches everyone having a good time in the water, Mitsuki can't bring herself to join them due to her embarrassment over her kitty's love lock being seen by everyone if it ever gets out of hand. Meanwhile, Yuuya is enjoying himself and even reacts when his friend Shoutaru accidentally bumps into Yukina, causing her to fall into the water. In a panic, Mitsuki jumps in to help but ends up cramping her leg. Luckily, Yuuya carries her out of the water, but she is unaware that the little guardian that was protecting her love lock has fallen down and everything is literally transparent as of now. When he lays Mitsuki down, he is shocked after seeing her freaky panties. Yuuya tries to hide her exposed chain by kissing her, so that passerbys don't get to look at Mitsuki's kinky side. In a surprising turn of events, Yuuya removes his own swimwear, causing Mitsuki to scream and feel even more embarrassed. He makes her wear his dirty, smelly shorts, but seeing him like this also fills up her heart's gauge towards Yuuya at the end. As if things couldn't get any stranger, the next day Yuuya can't stop thinking about why Mitsuki wears the chain and unconsciously rubs her very panties against his face. Those very panties that she dropped a day prior and are brought to him by Yukina. Meanwhile, Mitsuki stays home from school due to illness and reaches her breaking point when she tries to cut off the chain with scissors. However, she collapses and Hiori takes over her body upon seeing how damaged the chain has become. Desperate for Yuuya's help, and with Hiori wanting to play with his manly eggplant, her body takes a rather curvy turn, and she gets on top of Yuuya, all prepared to ride him, while showing her real self to the unsuspecting big brother. As Mitsuki embraces Yuuya and calls out for her mother, he helps her into bed to rest from being sick. The following morning, Hiori is relieved to see that Mitsuki is okay but knows that she is not fully recovered. Meanwhile, Yuuya seeks advice from Yukina about Mitsuki without mentioning her name. Although he receives helpful advice, he comes to the wrong conclusion about why Mitsuki wears the chain, referring to it as scary clothing, and he also concludes through his own speculations that maybe Mitsuki is more into women than men. On their way home from school, Yuya finally gets the chance to talk to Mitsuki and tries to understand more about her mysterious chain, as well as bringing in his own perspective of the entire dilemma. Mitsuki, who is possessed by Hiori while the real spirit of the body is Alcip, urgently tells Yuya that there is something she needs to tell him. But before that grand talk where she might portray her desires, Hiori tells him that she'll be back after taking a bath to clean her sins. The talk finally begins between the two as Hiori finally walks into the room while wearing no pants and exposing her freaking love locks on her shaved kitty. She tries to lure Yuya in by constantly falling on him while making his willy stand up, but she fails. But after all this, Yuya starts speaking and he addresses his own concerns on why her kinks know no bound, and that even the weirdest of characters from Boku no Pico fall pale in front of her. He further mentions that it's okay to be a part of the rainbow community, and liking women is completely fine. And even being a part of the cosplay kinky community is fine too, since Mitsuki's lover always wears wings, and she wears that weird love lock to protect her V-card. However, he still expresses concern about the chain around her child-giving bureau, and after another misunderstanding, Mitsuki wonders how he came up with such a crazy idea. Yuya reassures her that he is fine with her wearing the chain but wishes she would be more careful. She is grateful for his kind words, but then he mentions her to cover up her freaky thighs with something, and due to this Mitsuki kicks him out of the room. During lunch, Ayaka suggests that Mitsuki should join a school club. Although initially hesitant, Mitsuki agrees to look at some clubs without committing to joining one right away. She tries out various clubs including tennis and soccer, but each time she ends up being possessed by Hiori and impressing everyone with her skills. However, Mitsuki declines the offer to go for the World Cup due to the overwhelming paperwork involved. It isn't until she stumbles upon the kendo club that things take a different turn. Hiori becomes interested in Yukina and they end up having a match with Yuya watching. But Hiori is unable to withstand the smell that comes with the mask used in kendo practice, and at the last moment Hiori withdraws from Mitsuki's body, leaving her all alone to fight against the really fierce Yukina. Yukina forcefully knocks out Mitsuki concerning Yuya and causing him to rush to her side. As Mitsuki regains consciousness, she is drawn to the theater club where Nico is rehearsing a play she wrote. The play centers on Yuya's dilemma between his girlfriend, which is played by Nico, and his stepsister, played by Moa. In the end, he chooses his girlfriend, who asks him to marry her, but backs out at the last minute, declaring that he should be with the one he truly loves. Mitsuki takes over Moa's role and scolds Yuya for obsessing over someone who isn't really his sister, and that his sister Oedipus complex should still be alive. Moa tries to reclaim her role but ends up tripping on Mitsuki's dress, letting everyone see her freaky belt tied above her peaches, and everyone looks in shock at this stern follower of cosplays. As Mitsuki wakes up from what she thought was a dream, she receives a text from Ayaka telling her not to worry about the incident at school, leaving her in shock, as everyone is accepting her fetish as it is now. Meanwhile at school, Yuya is given 2 tickets to the aquarium by Nico, so that both could have some fun wet time together for the day. Mitsuki arrives home before Yuya and is surprised to find a cultured magazine with all the biggest plot armor sizes in town lying around in the living room. However, her surprise turns into a nightmare when Yuya comes to retrieve his friend's magazine and Mitsuki freezes upon seeing it, thinking it belongs to Yuya. Later on, to change the subject, Yuya offers her the aquarium tickets, which excites both Hiori and Mitsuki. While hiding in Mitsuki's body, Hiori expresses her happiness about going on a date with Yuya at the aquarium. As they explore the aquarium together, Mitsuki is delighted by the surroundings while observing an ocean sunfish floating nearby. She asks Hiori why they came with Yuya, comparing it to a date. Embarrassed by her own thoughts of being on a date with Yuya, Mitsuki jumps back into her own body but can't shake off the excitement and confusion that fills her heart and makes Hiori feel strange. Maybe Mitsuki is finally going the incest way, followed by 4chan users. Later on, as Mitsuki and Yuya open up to each other, Mitsuki reveals that she feels strange about having someone there when she gets home, as her mother used to leave her alone when she went to work. She then asks Yuya if he had a friend named Hiori when he was little, but Yuya tells her he has never heard of that name before. In the dirty public toilet, Hiori and Mitsuki have a clean conversation where the angel explains to Mitsuki that her chosen name comes from a book and she can't recall her original name, just because the only thing she recalls is her freaky thoughts towards the beloved big bro. Once Mitsuki gets out of the toilet and having a fight with Hiori, she dips her legs into a tank filled with small fish. Mitsuki feels uneasy, but Yuya insists on joining in and submerges her legs into the tank with fish, thinking it'll be harmless. However, the fish suck so hard on her skin that the sucking gives her other thoughts, making her lose control and go wet in front of her beloved big bro. At the end, Mitsuki gets upset with Yuya for not realizing that the fish affected her, but he apologizes and she quickly forgives him. And he ends up patting her head in the most brotherly manner ever. As they walk back home, Yuya runs ahead and turns on all the lights to welcome them back. Later in bed, Hiori tells Mitsuki that she believes their synchronization ratio has increased because their hearts are connected. She also mentions pretending not to notice Mitsuki's growing feelings for Yuya, causing Mitsuki to blush and deny it. Mitsuki receives a call from her mother, and she starts yapping to her. Outside the house though, Nico stands with a villainous aura, thinking what will happen next after this day's good ending. Before Nanami leaves for work, she brings over a Kotatsu for them to use. While studying math under the Kotatsu, Mitsuki falls asleep and so does Hiori. When Yuya sees them sleeping together, he assumes Hiori is a friend of Mitsuki's, or maybe she's the one she's fulfilling all her rainbow fantasies with. He notices her math notebook and then checks the mistakes in her math work and corrects them before falling asleep himself. Upon waking up, Mitsuki finds Yuya holding her and probably enjoying her tiny melons a bit too much while sleeping, but brushes it off as his usual idiotic habits. During his sleep, he keeps rambling about his mom as he dreams about her. He remembers that the last time he sat with someone in a Kotatsu was with his mom when he was a baby. She is touched when she discovers Yuya had also corrected her math work for her. The next day, Mitsuki makes a special bento lunch for Yuya. Hiori compares her current activities as that of newlyweds, but Mitsuki dismisses it as synchronized feelings with her crush. Later on, Mitsuki gets sick but is hesitant to look inside the bento lunchbox given by Hiori. Eventually, Hiori possesses her and takes a peek inside, only to find a second bento lunchbox filled with food. Mitsuki discovers that the bento she made is completely empty while the other one is full, causing her great disappointment. Later, Yukina comes over to visit with a bento for Yuya, but then later on she finds out that he didn't eat it, and instead he ate the lunch given to him by Yukina. As Yuya comes back, he immediately notices that Mitsuki is out of character. Yukina then offers to cook the food with Mitsuki for Yuya and Ko. Mitsuki refuses, but Hiori possesses her body and accepts the bento, convinced it was all just a misunderstanding. Later, while Yuya is in the bath before dinner, Mitsuki jumps back into her own body by chance. Yukina accidentally spills white liquids and specials dressing on her, causing Mitsuki to quickly retreat for a bath as well, while ensuring that Yuya witnesses her almost non-existent curves for good, bringing her another step closer to heaven. She's in the washroom all alone with her pervy stepbrother. He thinks that she's cosplaying the naked apron, trying to seduce him for good, but all that he receives is a good slap to the face, that's all. During dinner, Yuya explains that he had saved Mitsuki's lunch for later, causing Yukina to reflect on how far they have come from love. Afterwards, Mitsuki finds herself standing on the steps to heaven with Hiori, who is delighted that they are getting closer to the gate. Mitsuki is rather concerned if the kinky love lock's design could be changed, as whoever sees it thinks that she's a freak of some sort straight out of 50 Shades of Grey. So, she requests of Hiori to change the design if possible. However, Mitsuki can't help but bring up her friend's lack of initiative in trying to remember more about herself. This rather rude session upsets Hiori and causing her to storm off in anger. Left alone during the day, Mitsuki begins to feel guilty and upset until dinner time arrives. She is confused when Yuya notices her, and even though Hiori is gone, she still can't shun off her feelings towards Yuya. Even a single touch on the table ends with her heart throbbing for Yuya. Mitsuki places her head on the table, because she's completely love-struck by her own brother. Meanwhile, Yuya is thinking that she might be choking. Concerned for her well-being, Yuya performs the Heimlich maneuver on her instead, causing her heart to melt at his touch, which ultimately would have caused her to get wet. But then, when asked if she is okay, Mitsuki slaps Yuya once again in confusion. She heads to the bathroom to gather her thoughts and realizes that she has lost her purity chain. Aka the freaky V-lock on her stinky kitty. Panic sets in as she believes Hiori may have crossed over already into heaven, although her actions should have sent her to hell. Desperately searching for Hiori, Mitsuki rushes out of the house at a random hour in the night, and after failing to find the devilish angel, she sits in a park. Yuya appears and offers to help her find her missing cosplayer friend. To her relief, they eventually find Hiori in the same spot where Mitsuki had first collapsed. Mitsuki asks why her purity chain disappeared, and Hiori returns it with a smile, assuring her that it is still there for her. Hiori tells Mitsuki about the brand new purity chain she brought for her because she was complaining about the previous one's shady and revealing design. Afterwards, Mitsuki and Hiori have reconciled upon their return home, but Mitsuki is taken aback by the unconventional design of the new chain, as it looks as it was made specifically for men with 8 inches long ding-dongs, and now she longs for the familiar piece of kinky underwear she once used to wear. Back at home, Mitsuki decides to use 4 tickets to try her luck at a prize spinning game. To her delight, she wins a trip for 2 to a hot spring, knowing well enough who she will go with and have some really good alone time with her incestuous big bro. Yuya eagerly volunteers to accompany her, but they are surprised to find that Shoutaro, Moa, Yukina, Ayaka, Nico, and Nanami are also there. As it turns out, Hiori had already wished for the first prize 4 times before. Once everyone's inside the resort, they get prepared to finally sit in the hot springs. Almost everyone has shed their clothes except for Nico, because she has some dignity within herself. And during all this, a love war is beginning to start, as Mitsuki might be jealous of Yuya's closeness with Yukina. But Mitsuki denies it, attributing it to her synchronized feelings with Hiori. Later on, when Yuya comes to check on her and offer comfort, Mitsuki dismisses him, saying she's fine, and she runs away afterwards after slapping him. Later on, in the mixed, both Mitsuki and Hiori are taken aback when Yukina accidentally falls into the bath melons first in Yuya's embrace, while Yuya goes after Mitsuki, who runs off thinking that she has misunderstood the entire situation. Outside, Yuya catches up with Mitsuki and explains what really happened, comforting her and assuring her that she is a kind person despite her doubts. The stress and emotional turmoil takes a toll on Mitsuki's heart, causing the chain around her ankle to weaken. And being a good non-pervy older brother, Yuya carries her to the game room to rest, which fills Mitsuki's heart even more. As she rests in the game room, Yukina shows up. She initially tries to comfort her, but then eats the dorayaki cake Yuya had given to her, signaling that she will eventually win Yuya's heart and won't let Mitsuko win at any cost, starting the biggest war in history since 1945. Later that night, Yuya encounters Nico, and they discuss her question about how Yuya feels towards Mitsuki. Unable to give a clear answer, Nico steps in with a trick she learned that forces him to be honest about his feelings under hypnosis, and with that she kisses him and enforces the hypnotic methods upon him. The next morning, when Yuya can't seem to wake up from the hypnosis, everyone gathers around him trying to figure out what's wrong. In a daze, he blurts out that Mitsuki is cute, and the very next second he grabs Yukina's plot armors, for the plot obviously.
やっぱり牛乳たくさん飲むとでかくなるのか。な、バカだな。大きな胸にコンプレックス持ってる子もいるんだぞ。
Nico explains the temporary hypnosis technique and reveals that anyone who asks him a question will receive his true feelings as an answer. As the day goes on, Yuya falls ill with a fever and Mitsuki ponders over Nico's words. Later on, Yukina visits him and they have a heart-to-heart conversation where he admits his disappointment that she felt the need to change for him. She reassures him and also lets slip that she knew about Hiori all along but never said anything, because she has been able to see ghosts since she was a child. Hiori feels regretful for not taking advantage of playing with his Excalibur after Yukina leaves. Mitsuki prevents the ghost from further naughty activities, since Mitsuki has her morals too. Meanwhile, Yuya lies awake in bed thinking about both Yukina and Mitsuki. Suddenly, he bursts into her room, causing her embarrassment in her current state. To her surprise, he tells her to stop wearing that kinky freak V-card protection belt on her kitty, as it's not cute at all. Hiori then appears and leads Mitsuki to the Golden Gate, which opens before them with a loud creak. Hiori disappears behind the doors along with the chain of Mitsuki, but not before declaring that she wants to be reborn as their child if they ever get married in the future. The next day, as they all leave for school, Mitsuki finally refers to Yuya as her big brother rather than using you or him.